Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of the Saturday Morning D&D Show. The episode, long-awaited.
Yes.
As there is a new book out, and we decided to skip 2 shows in a row, so welcome.
Because we were so excited about one book, we needed to really prep.
It's true. I'm checking my audio levels because Lucian has a habit of not being able to be heard, but it looks like he's doing okay, so I think we're good.
Well, we've done episode 189, so it's not like we haven't done a lot of shows for you to watch out there. So if you missed any, you could have went back and caught any of the ones you missed.
Fantastic. So we actually have a lot to talk about because we missed some days. But
I'm waiting for you to ask about my background. I'm waiting for there it was. This was the epic fight. Oh, let me do it this way so you can see it just for a second. That was the epic fight.
Interesting.
That we had. I don't know if we'll get to talk to it today because we had a bunch of stuff, but I left it up because I thought, it was a crazy fight with an Oni and a hag and a wizard and Mezzoloths and shield wardens and Big B's hands and what else was in there? There's like a grill or a grek was in there. It was a cool fight, really fun. The group had a lot of fun, but we finally got to play it. I just had left that up.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. And that's your Dungeon of the Mad Mage?
Dungeon of the Mad Mage. But if we get to it, we get to it. If not,
and still a big fan of Roll20, I see.
We love Roll20. Our characters are so complicated that if we didn't have the math behind Roll20 at this point, it'd be tough. It would slow the combat so far down you'd never get through them for sure.
Do you use the video and audio of Roll20, or do you use like Zoom and then just that for the
Zoom? Okay. And I think we use Zoom because everybody knows me and you use Zoom for our shows when they've been on our shows and stuff, and so they've kind of just have always, when they created their show, when Danimal created his show for streaming on Twitch, he just used Zoom. So we use Zoom, Discord for audio, Zoom for video, Roll20 for virtual tabletop.
Well, there you go. Well, I guess lots of stuff to talk about. But the big news is I picked up this book yesterday.
Oh, yeah. This book? This one?
Yes.
You got the same cover, I see. Did you buy two?
No, I just got one. I canceled my pre-order. This is Strixhaven we're talking about for those of you. I just got the one. I canceled my pre-order because I realized that I wanted the actual... I love this cover. Like, this just looked really cool.
Nice.
And a lot of times I'm not a big fan of the alternate covers, and I was always saying that I wanted all of my books to match, but I decided I didn't care anymore, apparently, because I have the Feywild book that came out, Wild Beyond the Witchlight. I have that alternate cover as well, so... and now it's part of me is like, well, I wish I'd kind of gotten all of the alternate covers. I guess the Volos one is selling for like $1,000.
Whoa.
Because not a lot of people realized they were doing, it was the first one, and not a lot of people realized they did that, and the alternate covers, and it's just really rare because it's rare, apparently. So.
I didn't get the Volos one. I got the Mordenkainen one.
Yeah.
For some reason, I got the normal Volos, so it fit with the other books on my shelf.
Yep, that's what I did.
Yeah.
So have you had a chance to flip through it or read or anything?
I've read through, I did the first flip through. I read the first couple of chapters because I wanted to see, I always like to know when they bring out these kinds of books, how they explain you should put them in your campaign world. And how much do they explain about where this content comes from? How much they explain about how to fit it into the world you have, or how much, what ways you can fit it into different types of worlds. And I was really surprised they didn't talk a ton about Magic the Gathering itself, and really even mention it very much. You might not know if you pick this book up that it's a Magic the Gathering card set.
I felt the exact same thing. It says, like, they straight up say, like, here's how magic kind of works, and they explain, like, the Weave and Forgotten Realms, and then they, on top of that, they kind of place Strixhaven, even though magic works completely different there from other places. Not in this book, but just that Magic the Gathering magic is not necessarily D&D magic. But they were very, very like, hey, this is a academy, and you could put it anywhere. Like, you could put it in your world. It could be its own subdimension. It could be its own planet, like it is in
Mm-hmm.
like it is in the Magic the Gathering world. It's like a school on a planet, which I guess all schools are on planets. I don't know. I'm not what you call a geology wizard,
No.
but it was interesting to have a more focused, not how do I play in the world of Magic the Gathering, but how do I utilize this book? And that's something that I think, not Theros. I think Theros was really good at, like, how do I utilize this book? But the Ravnica book was very much like play in Ravnica. And I wonder if the reception or just feedback they've gotten has shifted their views of these Magic the Gathering worlds. But also, this is just a really good standalone adventure, too. And I'm about 3/4 of the way through the whole book, and so I'm about a little over half through the adventure. And it's really cool. Like, I think this is a lot of fun as a standalone adventure. I almost wish that it was higher level, because I want to play like an introductory adventure to get to level 5 and then have them stumble upon this school that they then can like enroll and go on. But which you could start at level 5, but I really reading through it, I think it's a lot of fun to be like, level 1, I have magic powers, I better go to this school. And so and there's a lot of cool level 1 stuff, and then you get more familiar with the different 5 branches of the school that you can, or houses that you can join, because you get to choose. There's no like Harry Potter sorting hat and stuff like that. So.
Well, I thought they did a really good job about, it's a magical school, but it's a school that studies how to use magic and what you do. It's not a school of study about magic, I guess, although that sounds the same way when I say it out loud. But it's the idea that you could be a cook, but you go to this school to learn about how to use magical ingredients or magical techniques to be a better cook. This school isn't just about learning wizard spells. This is about how magic can work in different ways. It can be about learning magic spells. It can be about that, but it also could be for the bards. It also could be for a fighter who is trying to learn how to augment something in a fighting style that maybe uses a magical component or technique to augment it. So it gives you a reason, because I always remembered when I was thinking about a cool magic university, well, is that really only an adventure for your clerics and wizards and warlocks, right?
Yeah.
But they did a good job of describing why it's not just that. Why there's lots of different types of people and different types of professions that they might have and different types of adventures that could enroll in a school like this, going there for a specific type of study, you know, and then you choose those schools which would help you in the type of study that you're trying to go down.
So they really emphasize, like, not necessarily where your magic comes from, but that you are magical. So you could be the fighter, and I keep thinking about that, like, Fey Barbarian or whatever it was, the one that had like the wild magic table. Like, that would be a lot of fun to play in a Strixhaven campaign, I think, because you have this connection. They actually talk about you could be a paladin that has this oath of conquest or something, where you're talking to spirits from the past or something, and that's what's giving you, you know, they have a lot of ways to work those previous classes into Strixhaven. Something else I thought was interesting is that there's no gods. They didn't talk anything about, like, here are the Magic the Gathering gods that we worship. And
no pantheons.
There's no pantheon. So and that's another good way of putting it into your world. And it doesn't necessarily matter where you're getting your magic from. It's just that you are magical. And so it could be a Forgotten Realms route where you're very, you know, connected with your god and they give you powers or something. Or it could be like an Eberron route where just the act of faith is what gives you power. And so I think it's really cool. I really like it a lot. Like, I like the feats because I can be a Witherbloom feat magic initiate, and then I have this magic, like, extra magical power throughout the whole thing. But the elephant in the room is Silvery Barbs.
Well, all over Twitter. And there were two. Also, one of the artists creators got left off of the credits.
Oh, that
by
was
accident.
that, yeah.
So that was the other thing. They did put a tweet out there if you're looking for it. I believe it is. I was going to write it down so we could say it in the show, but you can find it easily on Twitter where they realized it right away and they put it out everywhere they could that they had missed this, but she was a big part of, just like any of the other people they credited in the book for being a contributor. So they were sorry that they had missed that person.
And
I
will
noticed
be
in
fixed
here,
in future printings.
yeah, I noticed in here, art department, Tristane Falcone. So
Yeah.
we were just talking about Acquisitions Incorporated. I didn't realize she had been working for Wizards Incorporated. I thought she was still with Penny Arcade, the company, and working for them.
No, I think she was originally part.
it
we have to like. I don't know
be
this for
they.
sure, but I thought she was on their comic. They did a show. Penny Arcade did a show where it was like Last Artist Standing or something, and it was a reality show about drawing online comics. And I think Tristan Falcone was one of the artists on that show, and that's how they became friends. But from my understanding, she's just a freelance artist, and maybe she was working for them for a little bit, but I think she got...
yeah, I thought she worked there for... Maybe it was only a little bit, but I thought she worked at there.
Kate Welch
I do
did,
believe
and then
her
Kate Welch
pronouns
left
had
them, so.
changed in the last couple of years, so we may be getting that wrong, and we completely apologize if so. But I think, I want to say maybe it's they.
Oh, okay. I apologize.
I don't know. I'm not sure, but I love their artwork. I love, they're a great character on Acquisitions Inc. I really think they kind of center that whole group of the craziness around the other characters in Acquisitions Incorporated. So, I love it. So I thought that was cool. I saw that name in there. And then you're right. The elephant in the room was, which we should probably look at, Silvery Barb for some reason.
Yeah.
So I didn't read too much into it. Apparently everybody else think it's the greatest thing ever somehow.
Well, it has the same problems that I have with Counterspell. And
Tell me about it.
I just don't like it.
I just don't.
Silvery Barbs, it's a first level spell, and it also is, because it's a first level and because it is a enchantment spell, it's in certain categories where arcane trickster rogues can get it. And anyone with the magic initiate feat can get it. And it is just pretty powerful. And there's no save, it's an on-off switch. So I'll read it right now. It says...
Yeah, I was going to say, let's get to the details here. Page 38.
You magically distract the triggering creature and turn its momentary uncertainty into encouragement for another creature. The triggering creature must re-roll the d20 and use the lower roll. You can then choose a different creature you can see within range. You can choose yourself. The chosen creature has advantage on the next attack roll, ability check, or saving throw it makes within 1 minute. A creature can be empowered by only one use of this spell at a time. So to use this, it's a reaction, and you take your reaction when a creature within 60 feet succeeds on an attack roll, an ability check, or a saving throw. And the big thing here is saving throw. So, and the fact that it's a reaction spell. So if I cast Burning Hands on Lucian and he succeeds on his dex save, I can then reaction spell on my same turn to have him re-roll that for disadvantage. And you're like, okay, well, that's not... I mean, that's just like a cool combo. It's not like the most powerful, but like you start getting into...
and then you give advantage to somebody else.
And then you... Or yourself, yeah.
Because you give disadvantage to me. Yeah.
But where it comes into play is it doesn't specifically say you give someone disadvantage. It says they re-roll a d20.
And take the lowest.
There are a lot of situations, and I don't have them written down, so I apologize, but there are a lot of situations where I think it might be the enchantment wizards and stuff where you can give disadvantage on certain creatures, and then on top of that, do this spell to then have them re-roll their already disadvantaged die. So let's say I have disadvantage, but I roll a 17 and an 18. well, then I'm going to use this again to make you re-roll that 17 to have it be a 4 or something.
Oh, I guess it doesn't say. Yeah, so if we go back to one important part there, it says succeeds on an attack roll, but it doesn't. We don't know if I'm attacking as the barbarian. If I had, let's say, recklessly, and I had advantage. So when you tell me to re-roll the d20, which d20 am I re-rolling? The advantaged one?
Yeah.
yeah. Triggering the creature. And then I have to roll another d20, and I look at the one I used before that succeeded and the new one, and I have to take the lower.
Yeah.
So it really is giving me a disadvantage.
Even though that should just cancel out and be like the regular roll. And I think that's one of the problems with it. Another one is people were talking about legendary resistances with monsters and how, okay, so
it's just an auto pass.
Well, and this one's up for debate. We haven't had an official ruling from Wizards yet. But if there's a legendary monster and I cast Burning Hands again, and he succeeds on his saving throw, then I use Silvery Barbs to make him re-roll that. He then doesn't save, but as that happens, he decides to use a legendary resistance, which means he saved. But how does that work? And some people are thinking like you're just burning through his legendary resistances really quick. Like that's not cool. And the combo again is if I do Burning Hands and he fails, uses legendary resistance, I then use Silvery Barbs to make him re-roll it. He fails again, uses legendary resistance again. So we're getting into this thing where it's like, can I really burn 2 to 3 legendary resistances with one spell? Like that seems a little overpowered. And also with this, there's no avoiding it. Unless you know Counterspell, there's no stopping this from happening. And I don't like that. There's no protection. Like, I don't know, if it should be like if I have Mage Shield up or something, or if I have something. There should be a way to protect against this, and there's absolutely not.
A saving throw.
A saving throw.
Because that's normally what protects you from a spell hitting you.
If you're resistant to psychic damage or something, this spell doesn't affect you. Like I need a way as a player and a dungeon master to utilize this without making everybody upset. So I will say I saw that Sly Flourish was talking about this, and he was saying he didn't have like the most solidified opinion, but he was saying that if you don't like it, it doesn't have to be in your game, and that's fine.
Yeah, you just throw it out.
And B, make it something that they have to like quest for, you know? And so it is like, oh, you found this gem that allows you to cast Silvery Barbs, but that gem can be taken away, or, you know, something to that effect. So there's ways around it, but what I wanted to talk about, I guess, is we're getting into this point where I used to be able to say, we're going to run a game. You can use any published material, officially published by Wizards. But now I'm going to get into games and I'm going to be like, you can use things from, you know, like Tasha's +1 basically, or something like that. Like I'm going to be restrictive because I don't think this promotes fun at the table. And I think a lot of players are, much like Counterspell, feel forced to take this rather than other spells that maybe they want to take that might be more fun for them or their character, or more situational specific. Like, I really want to take Liamon's Tiny Hut because we're going to the top of a mountain, but man, I really need Counterspell. I mean, Silvery Barbs is just too good. And so that's my rant.
Well, yeah, I mean, you could almost use that as shield spell, though, too. I mean, the idea that we saw it in this battle that we did the last Tuesday, where our gnome was being attacked by a pretty heavy melee type creature, and he's an artificer, but he's got a bunch of level 1 spells, and he has a staff that stores like 3 or 4 level 1 spells. And so the entire round, he was like, something would try to hit him, and he was like, shield, 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 shield. I mean, every round he cast shield, and the DM was just like, I can't hit him. I mean, there's just nothing I can do. And you have so many of those spells, and who's not going to take that spell? Like, you have to take that spell.
Well,
I think if you have access to it.
And shield is very powerful. And again, why is it powerful? It's a reaction. Counterspell is very powerful. Why is it powerful? It's a reaction.
And we had a lot of
shield
counterspell stuff.
Affects me. And shield is not affecting the monster.
No, it affects the DM.
So the DM can roll and be like, okay, I missed you. But then if you're playing the monster, and that's frustrating. Don't get me wrong. I've had that.
Yeah.
But then the monster can be like, well, if I can't hit you, I'm going after these other squishy characters. You know, like there's ways around
and
it.
We didn't have any. He was the squishiest.
He can't shield everybody. It's a self spell. But I don't know. This was like just bizarro that it got through playtesting. So
I think it's surprising that there's not that it's a 100% that it happens, right? Because a spell, I mean, even the next one down, Vortex Warp. If all these spells were 100% happen and you didn't get, like, you have to roll a Constitution saving throw to see if it doesn't affect you, all spells would be super powerful. So I think that's the one thing that makes that one kind of stand out, is that there's not a lot of spells that when you cast it, it's just 100% it happens, right? Counter spells that way, shield, like you said, Silvery Barbs. But most people get a chance to avoid the disadvantage of it, or
and I'm thinking,
and this one doesn't give that, but
like the Divination Bard has that roll 2d20, and then you can replace one of those rolls during the day.
Yeah, we have one in our campaign, and he constantly says to our DM when the big bad guy rolls a nice high roll, he's like, that's not how I saw it happen. Go ahead and re-roll that one.
And I think that's a lot of fun, but you get 2 of those as opposed to 5 to 7 spell slots upscalable of this thing.
All your spell slots,
and you are, I don't know, man, I don't like it. And I think now I'm going to have to be like, I don't know.
It is verbal, 60 feet, range, instantaneous. Yeah. Interesting.
So we'll see where it goes. I'm really curious for Wizards to have an official statement about it, but I feel like we won't get anything until after the holidays. But we'll see. So,
because I like the Vortex Warp one too, the one that allows you. I was thinking I thought when it first came out, this was the first spell everybody was talking about, and then it switched to Silvery Barbs, because people were talking about being able to teleport people around the battlefield. Because
enemies specifically,
But it says you can choose a person, and they can choose to not.
They can choose
make
to fail.
the saving throw. So it can be used on your allies to pull them out of places. It is a second level. It is an action, instantaneous, so it's not a reaction.
But no, your friend is stuck in a watery sphere. Like, boop, I teleported you out. Like, I like this spell. Cool. It has some implications where, well, I'm going to teleport the big bad evil guy over a pit of lava. And it's like, okay, that does suck, but maybe he's immune to lava. Like, I don't know. And there's a Constitution save associated with it. So I'm less like, well, yeah, there's a save. Like, there's a chance that it doesn't work. The other one is like, there's a chance that it will work all of the time. So.
And I feel like a lot of people are saying that they might not let these feats into any game that wasn't a Strixhaven game too. Like, some of these feats are very kind of setting specific, and they might not balance well into whatever other setting you might be playing. But that's true of really any book. I mean, a book that introduces, the Artificer could completely unbalance your game.
Yeah. Well, and let's, I think Van Richten's Guide is a good example where there are things in there that I would want to use and what have you, but not every game I play needs to have a half vampire and this whole lineage system. And so you're right. And not every game needs to have the Theros god system. Like, it's a really cool system if you're playing in an ancient Greek setting, but not necessarily for everyday whatever. And I think this is another example of that. It's the fact that it's just like a generic spell, I think. And a generic feat. That was the other weird thing where it's like, well, it's called like Initiative Strixhaven, so at least they put the name in it so that you're like, hey, you're taking that third party feat that's really overpowered, blah blah blah. But I don't know. The maps are really cool. There's a whole bunch of lore on all of the different colleges, and
you get a new
really
class, a new race. Here's the maps
and the owl. Yeah,
you don't normally get that in a lot of their adventures. I don't remember that being in many of the other books. Big map at the back.
Icewind Dale has it, and I think.
Do they?
Tomb of Annihilation had one.
I don't remember. Storm King's Thunder, I don't think did.
No, I don't think Storm Kings did.
And I guess I don't really buy. Well, Dragon Heist, did it have the big map in the back?
Dungeon of the Mad Mage does.
Dungeon of the Mad Mage does. Okay. Lots of cool creatures. Wasn't there homework rules? I feel like I saw homework rules.
Yeah, there really are a lot of. So there's 4 chapters, and every chapter is a year of school. And there's a lot of, I want to say downtime mechanics, but not. I don't know how I would run this. I'd be very curious to run this because a lot of it is like, hey, interacting with other people. And I feel like my players are just like, well, where do we go? I want to hit something. And the especially the beginning of this book is a lot of like, I don't know.
Yeah.
But,
how do I murder hobo in this?
Yeah, but they did a good job of throughout the story forcing you to be introduced to certain people so that when you get to year 2, you can make choices of which college you want to follow and also which who you want to be your mentor. And then if you choose a mentor or like a teacher to follow, there's a counter one that is going to like be your Snape to your Dumbledore in a way. And so that's really fun. There's a whole mechanic of like making friends with NPCs, and then that has benefits coming back. There's a whole section on finding a job. And so if you want to work a part-time job, you can have a gold
at the
income.
cafe. Yeah.
And so you'll get a gold income, and you'll also be making, what's the word? Relationships with these other NPCs because of your job or because you don't have a job and you're able to hang out more and things like that. So there's lots of benefits to role play, which we don't see a lot. Usually role play benefits are just like, I'm having fun with the story. But I really like that you get to pick and choose and kind of go around. Makes the replayability of this a lot of fun too. Yeah. And also a really easy way of putting it anywhere, because I like the fact that this could be like, oh yeah, like, you know, Jim, the blah, blah, blah of Witherbloom, like he could be in any world, really. It doesn't matter. So
I do feel it leans into certain tropes, and maybe some of those tropes wouldn't fit in your campaigns, just to kind of go over. I feel like it wants to be a humorous college experience. I feel like it wants to be, it definitely, Harry Potter was the game you wanted to play. You could take this and you could have a Harry Potter thing. Even though it's a college, you could even bump it up to being, you know, more adult, but still college. But all of the things I got in there was like, you know, there's parties going on. You can join extracurricular activities. You can be part of the band or the drama group, or like they're
who are
really
you going to take to prom?
Into,
like,
they're really leaning into the scholastic piece of college. And they talk about it's a campus of academics, students, professors. You know, it's all people that are kind of have the same general interests, and they're there to, you know, kind of do that thing. It's not necessarily you went there because you're an adventuring party and you saw this big place and you're going to try to loot the whole place, you know, or it's not like that, or wouldn't fit in like Dark Sun to me. Like I wouldn't throw Strixhaven down into Dark Sun. It just wouldn't make any sense if you're playing a darker game, a more gritty game, a more lower magic game. This feels very cosmopolitan. This is going to be, people are coming from all over. This is one place I thought was really good that you could put this as Sigil.
Yeah, and it actually says that in the book too. Like, I
thought that was a good suggestion.
I think Sigil would be an excellent location for this. This city, and I was actually thinking of like, well, you could work that in really easy, because that's just like, I mean, but Sigil has its own like dozen source books as well.
I like the idea of being able to play an owl. I mean, I'm playing an Aarakocra right now, which is, you know, the eagle people, and I love it. But I could see playing an owl humanoid person. That seems pretty fun. I've always thought we were missing like a nice, cool, like all the different dog humanoid people. I wish we had more of like a Pugmire, kind of like you would have all the different breeds of the dogs, but you'd have the Rottweiler dude and the, you know, the little terrier dude. And I always thought that'd be kind of cool if we had that, because we have cat people, right? We've got Tabaxi and we've got the Leonids. I almost feel like there's a third cat person, but maybe I'm wrong.
Maybe you're thinking Yuan-Ti, I don't know.
Nope, that's snake people. We've got lizard people. We didn't get dog people. Why don't we have dog people?
Yeah, that's a complaint that I've seen. And I think
we should fix that, Jordan.
The idea is that we have gnolls, But gnolls are not an
like
official
hyena.
playable race, so.
Yeah. They're hyena people, if I would say. I don't think dogs and hyenas are the same. Maybe
They're not, but that's the equivalent I have, I guess.
Yeah,
I don't think
domesticated
tabaxis
breeds.
and lions are the same, but there you go.
And they both have their own, which makes sense. You proved me right.
There you go.
I liked it. What overall? Give me your overall so far. Goodbye or disappointed or what?
No, I'm not disappointed. I really like it, and I like the fact that I can put it, not in Dark Sun. You're absolutely right, but any kind of trans world or planner experience kind of world where Dark Sun is very isolated to Dark Sun, and I wouldn't necessarily use this for non-D&D, I guess. Maybe because the mechanics are so
it might
tied
not fit in
into
a
D&D.
DCC game.
Yeah, I was like I just don't see
thinking
magic working like that in DCC or
prevalent.
something. I do kind of like this as a framework for kids with brooms or kids with wands or what? Yeah, kids on brooms. Sorry. Just to have the NPCs, the locations, the maps, and then play a kids on brooms game where we're not worried about magic, but like, yeah, what do you want to do? Like, you're in this Witherbloom college, or you're in this Prismari college, and so I think that could be a lot of fun. So it was a good buy for me. I read some reviews. I obviously placed a pre-order, but I didn't have to pick it up. I went and picked it up and paid for it. So
I went and got it from my store, my local.
Yeah, me too. And I looked. I was reading it online on Tuesday because I have it on D&D Beyond, and so I kind of knew what I was going into. There's actually a really fun feat that you can take at level 4 that gives you the Find Familiar spell, but only to summon the mascot of your school.
Oh yeah, they have the mascots in
and
the school mascots.
But there's fun things you can do with that mascot is you can like teleport places with it. Like we can swap positions, and so there was a lot of like familiar magic that I thought was really fun.
Yeah.
And if you don't get that feat, there's like a mechanical mascot you could take where it's like a wind-up toy. I thought was really funny. So.
Wasn't there a creature in the back? I was looking at some of the creatures, and there was something about the mascots that was interesting. Like, you hunt the mascots, or they're called, like, mascot pests? Pest mascots?
One of the mascots is a pest, which is like a worm grub thing.
Yeah. And then there was, like, a hunter of it or something like that. There seemed to be some type of thing going on there. But I like how they had the different mages and types of things you would meet. So, you, like, what would be a Prismari apprentice or a Prismari pledge mage if you go to the Prismari school. What's a Prismari professor, Quandrix scholars. I like how they talked about the different. And that's the only place where I think you really get to see some of the colors. Because in the Quandrix, you start to see the greens. The Prismari has the reds here and the blues. I think it's green and black is the color combinations. They don't really say them in here.
Yeah.
Lorehold is like probably white and... What is their combo? It's probably white and red, maybe?
Let's see. Silver Quill is white and black.
White and black.
Prismari is blue and red. Yep. Witherbloom is black and green, and they're all about decay, but decay creates life. That's my favorite one.
Yeah. Here's my favorite creature of the...
Yeah, that's a cool one.
The Groth, the dog, the swamp dog. I thought that was cool. I'm like, can I make that a pet? Large plant, CR4, pretty cool.
Lorehold
mascot.
He could. Lorehold is red and white, and Quandrix is green and blue. So...
Okay,
and they all have different, like, one of them focuses on archaeology, one of them focuses on magic as a science, one of them focuses it on as an art. Witherbloom is definitely the
life and death
druidic kind of nature-y magic stuff. But they also talk about, I think they're called knots or snarls.
Yes.
In the magic. And
the arches.
That, Strixhaven was actually built on a giant magical knot. And that's part of the power. And so you can get these weird, wild magic fluctuations where there's like knots of power and stuff. And I thought that was really interesting.
And it affects the magic spells and stuff that you can cast, right?
Something that is part of the Magic the Gathering storyline is the Orrick, who are the like failed students of Strixhaven, or the students that wanted to get in, but Strixhaven wouldn't let them in. Ooh. And so they live out on the fringes of this world, and they try to get people to go in and like steal magical secrets for them and their organization. And sometimes they recruit students that are actively enrolled there, basically explaining to them, like, you know, the dragons that run this place are really awful. Like, you should join us and help us bring about the downfall of Strixhaven.
Bring down their tyranny.
The Orrick play a role in the whole overarching story because, like, I'm sure, why not? They're the villain in Magic the Gathering. We're going to use them again here. But they did a really interesting, fun twist on it, I thought. And I love the art for the Orrick. They just have these, like, faceless masks and stuff.
Yeah. That could be a cool patron if you are going to have a adventure group that gets hired to go steal something from inside Strixhaven. So they're not students themselves, but could be brought into this whole what's going on in this place, and you can describe all these things that are happening as they're there trying to steal something.
Exchange
for
students.
An Orrick patron of some sort. Yeah, that'd be cool.
But no, Orrick would be the Orrick, as they're an organization. That would be a good, interesting group patron for the party, but also a warlock patron. That could be kind of cool. Like, I'm going to give you power to go into there because I can't go in, but this is why you're a warlock. So that could be a fun secret that a player has. They did get accepted and enrolled, but their magical power comes from the bad guys outside. So
very cool. Well, it's a good book. It's out. You guys can go get it on the shelves. It was like, $49.99 or something like that. $49.95.
Yeah,
Canadian, $65.95. So that's it, right? December 11th. No more books this year.
Yeah,
correct?
The next book is the Critical Role book. So
yeah, like January or February, right?
March, I think. Yeah.
Oh, pushed even further. That's right.
I think so.
So that's all we have.
Except we will have those updated books. They'll have that 3-book binding that's coming out in January. Remember the... I don't know if you can hear my son. He's screaming. But the Player's Handbook, Monster Manual, and then the Tasha's book that's combined with Mordenkainen's or something. Or they're having that
I'm still interested in.
Is coming.
So what do you think as far as a year in review here for books that we bought this year, Dungeons and Dragons? How'd you feel this year went for their content?
I don't know. That's a good question, and that actually might be a good topic next week when I can think about it.
Maybe think on it? Okay,
but
let's save that one for next week.
I'm trying to even, what came out? I guess Tasha's is the biggest one that came out. But I think...
We'll make the list so it's in our notes, and maybe that'll give us a chance to really deep dive. We'll save
I would like to deep dive about that. I think that would be a fun topic conversation.
We'll deep dive on that one.
We'll make a list. We talk about Pathfinder every once in a while.
Other news.
There's a Humble Bundle out that you can get a starter set box, which... I want to emphasize that the starter set box, from what I looked at, is not the D&D starter set box. It's not really the same. You could enjoy this if you are new to Pathfinder, if you're new to RPGs, kind of a thing like that. But there were veteran people in the comments that were just like, no, this is just great for maps, and it's great for this. And
to be clarified, it's Pathfinder 2 stuff, right?
Yeah,
even though we're saying Pathfinder
2.
Yeah.
Sorry, it is, yeah. But it's a physical box, this beginner box.
Like a
so you'll put in a coupon code at their website and get it mailed to you. Plus, like 32 other PDFs that are all Pathfinder 2 or Starfinder or something. It's a really cool deal. I've been
thinking about making the jump into Pathfinder this coming year.
Well, and that's what the thing is. I saw this and I was like, I don't. You probably have a lot of the PDFs because I know we all have PDFs and we kind of whatever. But I thought that this was a good thing for you because you kind of want to get into it and don't feel intimidated because it's a beginner box. You should be okay.
Yeah. And I bought another Humble Bundle before too, but they put out so much content.
There might be some overlap, like the core rulebooks here, but
that's really cool. We'll continue with Pathfinder news. That's a cool Humble Bundle. He'll put the link out there so you guys can find it. But what's out right now is Lost City of Omens. On their webpage, they kind of have it separate to here's your Pathfinder core books, here's your campaign setting for Lost City of Omens, and there's a bunch of books that go with Lost City of Omens. So if you're looking for a really good campaign setting, it seems like it has a lot of information to back it up for you dungeon masters that want to have a bunch of books available to you to run a campaign. This could be a really good time to get into Pathfinder 2nd edition, because there is a really well supported campaign world you can jump in, this Lost City of Omens and Absalom and stuff. They've got a lot of books in there. I thought that were really cool. And the newest, they have one more that's coming out in January. It's going to be called Knights of Lastwall. It's got new rules, new equipment, magic items, spells, support for playing an archetype called Knights of the Lastwall. And the Knights of the Lastwall are the ones where these people who, as far as I understand it, when the great big undead horde started to swarm across the lands, these are the people that stood up to fight. These are the people that tried to, make the last stand kind of thing. So it sounds very interesting and kind of cool. And I was also thinking that well, I want to come back to this one I have listed here after we get to your topic. But also want to point out PAX Unplugged is happening this weekend. So we've been seeing a bunch of the friends of the show have made it over to PAX Unplugged and are hanging out. I went one time, and it was awesome. The one time I went, I actually hung out with Grant, and I hung out with the Web DM boys a little bit, and it was pretty fun. You've not been to PAX Unplugged quite yet. I know that it's one of those ones that's kind of on your list.
Yeah, no, it's well, it's just far away from me.
Philadelphia is pretty,
but I don't mind flying because I fly to Indy. But the pandemic and stuff, it just didn't make sense to go because of other personal reasons as well. But like, boy, I really wanted to go, and I got a PAX press badge for Seattle PAX.
Oh,
and I was all like gung-ho to go to that, and then that's when the Delta variant like super swung up, and I was like, okay, I guess even though I'm vaccinated, I probably shouldn't. And now it just seems like it was, as much as I want to go back to conventions, and I'm not faulting any of my friends who have gone to conventions, and all of the pictures I've seen, they're being as safe as possible, but and you have to be vaccinated and things like that. So I look at them and I'm like, I don't necessarily think that you're the problem, the reason this hasn't gone away yet. But at the same time, it's I sympathize for those people that are like, well, I'm immune compromised. I can't get the shot, and so I can't go back to conventions because because everybody's going to conventions now. But boy, it's rough staying inside this log. I miss conventions like a lot, and I don't know. I didn't know how refreshing that yearly Gen Con or Emerald City Comic Con that I used to go to was, and now I haven't had it in a couple of years. And I'm like,
really spending almost 2 years of restraining your movement. Yeah. Like, you're even probably going to the store less than you did before. Like, maybe only make one trip a week versus when you used to go maybe once or twice a week or something like that. You might not have done as many family gatherings as you did all throughout your life. But this last year and a half, 2 years, you said, maybe I'll only go to one of those or two of those instead of the 5 or 6 I went to. And I've been feeling the same thing, is that after a year and a half or two at this point, depending on when your area went into lockdown and your mentality changed to kind of follow that a little bit, it's really started to drag on even somebody who's an indoor person. Even normally for me, I'm like, I really like to be able to just go out and do things. I can't believe I don't go to my game store. I used to go at least once a week, and go down there. But now I might just wait for once a month and just go get what I need and kind of come back out. I don't hang out there for very often, where I might have stood in the comic book store for an hour just looking at covers or just flipping through things, and I just don't tend to do it anymore. And so it's definitely, I can't wait till we can get back to that going away. Yeah. But who knows if it will or when it will or what'll happen.
And from my perspective, it might all work out because my son will be a little older. So I'll feel a little easier leaving rather than like, here's an infant, bye, which is kind of what I was going to do. And in hindsight, I'm like, that's kind of a terrible thing. It's a good thing you stayed home. Yeah. So, but boy, they look like they're having a lot of fun. And I've never been to a PAX Unplugged, but just the giant like castle entrance, I was like, okay, this seem, and it's PAX, like it's huge.
I will give you,
and that's the one that Wizards goes to. Like they don't go to Gen Con anymore, so it's like, okay, you go to PAX though. So
it is smaller when you compare it to Gen Con. So if you do go, be prepared for that. parking is terrible for that. So if you're going to go or you're thinking about going, you want to go, make sure you research that next year or this year if you're going like today or tomorrow or whatever, 'cause it's still going. That place is tough to get into. But once you're there, it's kind of cool. There's a lot of cool food places. There's a lot of cool places to sit down. There's a lot of cool rooms and things going on. It's just not quite the size of Gen Con. So don't go there expecting quite that big. But it was fun.
I think Nerdarchy, they were going to have their convention before the pandemic hit as well. And I think it's at the same place in Philadelphia. I think they rented the same building. Yeah. So whenever theirs is, I'm going to that one at some point too. So
one of these days it'll get back there, and then we'll get back out and see people again. We'll get to come see some of the fans that are out there.
Yeah. I want to just play games with people. That's what I
Definitely. Miss. James went last. That's who I hung out with last year a lot too. Is James. We got to play. I played a bunch of MCC and DCC with him.
Nice.
The year I went.
But if you're, I wonder if they'll do. They probably won't do an announcement, but I wonder if there'll be something there. I don't know. I saw there. Well, like Celeste is there with 2C Gaming, and a bunch of other cool things are happening. So
2C Gaming is throwing a lot of
Mage
stuff
Hand
out
Press.
there too.
Just lots of those indie publishers that are putting out like really great stuff. Like really great stuff.
The floor where all the vendors are is really good to walk around, and it's not as crowded as Gen Con is, where you're like shoulder to shoulder and you're kind of pushing your way if you want to go to a certain booth to see something, because there's just lines and lines of people. PAX Unplugged was way better to go see most of those same people, but then not as many people bunched in. Like you could really get there and you could really peruse and not feel like you were claustrophobic. So that was really good about being able to go and look at those vendors. And I love walking the vendor floor. I love walking through and just seeing different things and new things and things you might not see anywhere else. You know, the new games that are out, new RPGs, people are always, putting books out that they're not a big enough company that you get it like a Monte Cook or a Paizo or a Cobalt or a 2C Gaming or that kind of thing.
Yeah. Well, I have cool. a conversation topic, but I think I want to save that for next week.
No, you're saving next week is for the deep dive.
I think we'll do both.
Okay, we'll do both. Well, then let me bring up, because your conversation. Well, I'm going to say it.
Oh, okay, go ahead.
Because you're like, who is D&D's real competitor? And I thought that was a great kind of question. Yeah. And that made me think, well, we're always looking at Paizo and what they're putting out, but Cobalt Press puts out a lot of cool books. So maybe I should find some Cobalt Press news to bring it to everybody. So I went out and I looked, and Book of Eventides is soon to go to Kickstarter. They just finished their Heroes one. For some of you that kickstarted that, I know you love kickstarting a lot of the Cobalt Press books.
I do quite a bit of their stuff because it's just quality. Like I've not been disappointed with.
No, they had a lot of really cool stuff to 5e, and if you go and read one of their blogs, I picked up just one of them, and just one of them was really good. There was one called Magical Wastelands, and it talks about like living spells that are left over from huge magic battles and what that might look like. And they have one in there about the living falling star. So as if, this big cataclysm happened, this thing crashes into a battlefield, people fight over it, and the magics have then turned it into something, and it becomes like a big, bad CR type, Tarrasque type creature. And you can go over their blog and they just give the stats on it. They talk about how cool it is. And you just pick that up and throw it in your game at any point. They're throwing some really cool stuff out there at Cobalt Press. So I think what I'll try to do from now on too, not only am I bring us D&D news, I'll bring us some Pathfinder news. Maybe I'll bring us some Cobalt Press news, and then maybe we'll keep expanding to some of the other big companies that are out there.
News should be the like third-party supplements to watch or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
But no, I'm a firm believer that if D&D pulled another 4th edition where they want to make it entirely in-house, proprietary, all this other stuff, and not have an open game license, I think Kobold Press is the company that could easily take the open game license, rebrand D&D, much like Paizo did, and move forward. They're just... and then they would say, hey, we've got all these monster books that already work with us, with this system, and stuff like that. So
because it's open. Yeah, I could see that, for sure.
The Book of Heroes, that one is done, and I'm excited for that one to come out. But we talked about this 3 weeks ago, but I got the Book of Magical Artifacts or whatever, and it's really cool book.
Yeah,
so.
They put out some good stuff, and I feel like they look for spots to add fun things into 5e, not just necessarily worlds or not just necessarily rules, but just fun magic items and spells and creatures. They pick the right things to add to 5e that DMs would want. More spells, more magic items, more creatures. That's what any DM really, really wants.
More creatures. That's what
more
Felixes.
Felixes.
More creatures in D&D. Yeah. There you go. What'd you do in games? Let's talk about your epic fight in the back.
So we did play Dungeon of the Mad Mage, and we had a couple of weeks where we were off, just like the show. And then we finally played this last week, which was nice to get everybody back together again. Holidays are sometimes tough to get scheduling right because of all the stuff that's going on. But a cool battle with a hag, Oni, a wizard that had a shield warden protecting them, a bunch of Mezzalos that were keeping people busy. They were, nice high armored creatures, lots of spells to use. There was a lot of counter spell, I counter spell, your counter spell, I counter spell, your counter spell going on. There was some interesting uses of shield over and over and over. That was interesting. And then we kind of buffed up our main fighter. Like all of us threw spells on that would help him. So I put on Shield of Faith, and somebody else put on warding something, so they shared damage and got resistance. And then somebody threw haste on them, and then the bad guys were throwing all kinds of spells on him to try. So it was like this tug of war on who is going to make this one fighter either really good or really bad in the fight. So the first 3 rounds are just people trying to pump up the paladin or the barbarian warrior, or whatever that person is. I thought that was interesting. And then it finally turned into, okay, now we need to start fighting each other. It wasn't just trying to pump one guy up or the other. But it was a lot going on there. Everybody was using every spell they had. It's a really interesting floor. I think that level 9 floor has been the most interesting of all so far in Dungeon of the Mad Mage. And it's a very Strixhaven-like floor. So it was very relevant that the Strixhaven had just come out and we were fighting on a magical college floor level. Oh, I lost you. Oh, what, my headphones go out? I don't hear him.
Oh, no, it was me. It was me.
Oh, okay.
I was muted. Sorry. Oliver was being quite loud again. That sounds cool. I like this magical college stuff that we're doing.
Yeah, we were fighting students, and it's just a fun level.
There's no, and again, this always cracks me up, but there is literally no big monster you're trying to fight, or there's no overarching plot. You guys are just we're just exploring. Yeah,
we're just wandering through. Yeah, well, our plot line is Ac Inc. We're a franchise of acquisitions,
well, and I know that's your plot line, but
yeah.
The book, the actual adventure doesn't have that. It is literally just a mega dungeon to go explore. That's fun.
Yeah.
I love it.
Hallister, and it's about learning about Hallister.
Yeah, that's true.
And interacting with him and all the cool stuff that's going on. But it's we're getting we haven't fought an Oni. The last time I had an Oni is when I used him in a Storm King's Thunder, and I loved that creature. An Oni is a really fun creature to use as a dungeon master if you haven't done it yet. Go and look at some of the stats on what they can do and how you can mess with your party using an Oni. It was really cool and clever character or a creature to use, and it was fun. It added a lot of flavor to our battle.
Speaking of Onis, that made me think of just not a lot of people know about all of the different monsters in the D&D world, which is fine.
Yeah.
In Strixhaven, the first chapter of the adventure has a lot of going to class, and you have to take notes, and then it's about learning okay, we're going to talk about Slotty today, or okay, we're going to talk about this monster today. And there's a little box in the book that's like, here's all the things that you need to know about them. And then if your players can correctly tell you the difference between a green slot and a black slot, then you can move forward and they pass the exam, and there's benefits to passing and not and it's so funny. So yeah.
That's awesome. That sounds really fun for a lore-centric.
Exactly. I would love it. So good.
So, but what about, so that's what we did. It was fun. We got through it. I think we're at the end of it. I feel like we're about to level up. I feel like we're about to have completed this level. And I think we're about to hit level 10, or it might be 11. It's one of those two right there. I think it's 9 that we're on. But we're about to go down to the next level and see what that is. And it's been interesting because each level has been very different from the others. So you're just walking into something totally, who knows? It could be a whole level of drow. It could be a whole level of a swamp. It could be a whole level of giants. It could be a whole, this one was a magical school that Hallister had put up. You know, so who knows what we'll get to next. So it's been very interesting. I can't wait till we get, you know, deeper and deeper and higher level. I'm still loving the Arcane Archer / Twilight Cleric combo I've got going on. The character class is so fun to play, and it has lots of epic moments, and it does big, massive damage when you need it to. And I still miss a lot too, so that's always hurts. And you just like, no, I need to hit now. So it's just a fun character to play and a fun campaign to play so far. But what about you? Did you do some playing in your couple of weeks there of being away from the show?
I ran one game of DCC. And they finally left Hot Springs City, and so they went exploring into another area, which was really exciting.
What prompted that, though? Because you said they were kind of stuck in the city for a while.
I think a lot of them are newish players, and I think they're all completely new to hex crawls. And so, but eventually one of the players was like, I'm done with this place. And then everyone couldn't like give a reason to stay. So she kind of like instigated, like, we're leaving. Perfect. And so they left. And it was fun. And so we ended on a cliffhanger though, because they were fighting a bunch of these imps, and imps are very powerful in this version of the game, and in DCC. So they thought they were just like, oh, we'll go kill these like easy imps. And then the imp did like 14 fire damage to a level 2 character, and they were like, what? And so they were freaking out.
Back up!
But there was a magical door that the imps were protecting, and they got past them and then ran up to the door and touched it, but the player the player character that touched it burst into flame and disappeared. And everyone's like, well, did she teleport? What happened? Is she dead? And I'm like, that's what you see. And I just went with it. And
we'll see next week.
And then they all decided to run up and touch the door, hoping that it's like, well, this is all or nothing. Either Jordan's going to end the campaign, or we teleport somewhere, something cool happens. So they all ran up and touched the door, and that's where we ended. And so
we did that exact thing in Tomb of Annihilation. There was a part where one of our characters touches something or portals something, and he's just gone. And we all look at each other and we're like, well, did we give him 5 minutes to see if he'll come back? And they were like, no, if it's bad, we all go. So it's like, we all just go, right? Because 5 minutes he could be fighting on the other side.
Exactly, yeah.
5 minutes is done. You're not getting through 5 minutes of combat in D&D. You're 6-second rounds. So it was like this. But it was funny we're all looking at each other like, you wouldn't even consider, well, let's just give him a minute or two because maybe it's just a doorway and he'll just come right back and everything will be cool. We're like, no, we better all go. It's either we're all going to die or, this is it. So we made that same decision. That's funny. I love that.
And then I had some locals. They figured out that I was Jorphdan on the internet and contacted me from Discord and said, hey, like, you should join our Discord of locals in the area that like tabletop RPGs. And I was like, oh, okay.
Well, that sounds cool.
And it's been a fun Discord because everyone's like,
Michigan people. Lucian would like that too.
Everyone's looking for a game, or they're actively playing in a game, or they have advice, or they want to like talk. And some people are like, no, I'm still only doing online right now, or no, I'm doing this. So I got into a small game of D&D, and we played. I think we only played twice, which is kind of sad. But it was a lot of fun. We played online. And so we played twice, and it was all theater of the mind. I was like a little Duergar arcane trickster. And then we ended up leaving, and the guy said that he's like, well, I'm really sorry. I started this and organized it all, but he's like, but I wanted to get to know you guys in order to play again in the future. But my wife's going to have a baby in 2 weeks. So I'm going to like be out for a little while. And we're like completely understandable. So, no, they all seem like really fun people, and I hope to play with them again. And I even volunteered. I'm like, I could continue like running something with you guys if you want.
Yeah, I would love to run stuff with local people I could, if we wanted to go and meet up somewhere.
Yeah, I think it's
for
fun,
a drink or have some pizza.
But it's hard to find some of those people sometime, and so this was kind of cool. Where it was like, no, like join this Discord. We're only people in this area, and I was like, oh, okay.
I need a board game Discord like that too.
Yeah, well, that's the thing.
Play
Is this
board
one
games.
They have board games too.
Yeah.
So there's a tabletop RPG section. There's a board game section. It's all about like finding those people that like your hobby, and how do I, because that's the problem with board games and tabletop RPGs is you need people to play with.
You need people.
Yeah. So that's what I did. It was a lot of fun, and now I'm gonna go see Santa Claus with my kid, so that should be fun.
Any bets on if he's gonna cry or he's gonna like it?
I think he's gonna cry. I think he's not.
He's gonna cry. We're gonna hand him to him. He's like, "No, Daddy, don't let me go."
My backup plan is I give the camera to my wife, and I sit on Santa's lap, and we get a picture of me.
Yes. So. I'm sure the Santas out there love when the dads come up with that plan, too.
Oh, you don't think it's original?
No.
Okay. Thank you so much for watching, ladies and gentlemen. We will be back next week talking about our year in review, I guess. That's kind of a fun idea.
2 topics, you said. Who is D&D's real competitor?
Yeah.
And year in review.
We'll do that. It'll be a fun... that'll be a good episode. So, I'll make Lucian write notes ahead of time.
Oh,
that'll be good.
Lucian did.
Like, comment, subscribe, tell your friends.
Check out that.
I
podcast.
really enjoy Strixhaven. I'll say it again. So, not sponsored, but all that stuff. We'll see you next week on another episode of the Saturday Morning D&D Show. Take care.